This 3D gradient text effect is built entirely in After Effects with just a few simple steps. My followers on TikTok asked me to break it down, so here is the full tutorial. Let's get into it. Alrighty, now we have the text effect in After Effects, and we're going to break this down by creating this exact thing that you see in a new composition. The cool thing about this effect is that it looks super dynamic in 3D, but it's actually super lightweight on your machine and doesn't even use 3D layers. As you can see, 3D layers not even activated here. So let's go ahead and pause this animation. And essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to this little button right here. This is gonna bring up a new composition. It really doesn't matter whatever your frame rate is, 24 or 30. Whatever you're doing with, if you're doing vertical 9x16, 16x9, I'm just going to keep it the same to what the other comp was. It doesn't really matter for this, but the first thing we're going to do is pull up our text. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and drag my text box here, type in text with a period at the end. Let's take this box and just align it a little better. I'm going to go back to our selection tool with V, or just selecting up there. And that's actually going to pull up a little bit of a quick tip right here. You see our anchor point is actually not in the middle of our text. If we go to this tool right here by pressing Y, or this button right here, and then we hold down Control and we double click on it, it actually centers that anchor point. So a quick little tip there. And if we wanted to center this text, we would go to this align panel, which you can find in the window. If it's not here, go ahead and align it horizontally and vertically. Now it's in our center. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go to our effects and presets panel, and we're going to type in basic 3D. We're going to take this effect and just drag it onto our text layer here. Now, as you can see, if we go to the toggle switch mode, we can see that the 3D mode here is unselected. But with this effect, we can do all sorts of cool things that rotate on 3D axis. So we have a tilt and we have a swivel. So essentially you can kind of pose your text into a dynamic 3D position where it looks like the camera or the text itself is offset into 3D space. You can sort of make it feel like it's going into the Z plane, while technically not actually being in 3D calculations. So what I'm going to do to have some fun here is essentially animate this to do a little flick like we saw with the earlier text. So let's take the swivel, go forward a little bit, and we'll do a little rotation here. Now if you press U, it brings up your keyframes. I'm going to go to composition, settings, and actually make this comp a little shorter. I believe the other one was at like 1.5 seconds or something. Okay, so you'll probably say that this is a linear keyframe right here. We want to go ahead and actually make it pause in the middle of the text. So this is very simple. I mean, I talk about this sort of keyframing in my other videos, so go check those out. But Easy Ease will bring up our Bezier curve, and I believe we're on the speed graph. We're going to want to go ahead and go to the value graph and actually grab these handles, right? So by doing Easy Easy gave us these handles, and we're going to want to make it sharp at each end, so it pauses and it's slow right here during the middle. Essentially, this is time left to right and the value which it's traveling up and down. So if it's not traveling that fast or that much up and down, that means it's going slower over time. So the fast points are where it's sharp. So now you actually see where you kind of have to finick with things. Sometimes you do a keyframe and it's getting slow at the wrong point. You don't want it at that point getting slow. So let's go ahead and go back into this graph editor. Let's select everything, and we can actually hold shift and drag this down. And it's going to drag down all of our keyframes while holding sort of the idea of what we were trying to do with the keyframes still in place. And what it's probably going to be is we got to get C0 right here. We got to get the slow part to be around 0, but still where it's showing a little bit of that angle, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to position that first keyframe to be at the sliver. And now it's really just a finicking game to see what we want to do. And maybe I don't want it to flick backwards at the start. Maybe I just want to have a slower rotation at the start. So maybe I just wanted to have a sort of half turn at the start and then flick into more of a spin at the end. I'm just going to lower this. We're just going to lower this value so it's just a half turn to get to that 0 value. And then it drops off a lot more, does a whole spin. And then let's get it back to that sliver point so it does a little loop. There we go. There we go. Now we're getting that pop. Now we're getting that snap. Now there is a little bit of a jitter. So by taking this end off and doing a little bit of an adjustment of where this is hitting, we just want to make it seem like it's fluid one motion. So if it's here, the next position has to be just a couple frames later at the start. So I like how this is looking. You can see it's giving off that 3D text effect. So I think we are ready to move on to the next stack. The next thing we're going to go ahead and search up is glow. So when you put your glow on your text, it's going to give you sort of this like foamy glow that's sort of very thick and attached to the text. What I like to do immediately is just spread out that radius. And then what I'm going to do is just lower that intensity a little bit. And what you're going to start to see is you start to see a little bit of banding happening here. So to counteract that, we search up something called noise. Drag the noise on. We're going to take off color noise here. We're going to go to the percentage, put about 7%. Actually, it doesn't really look like that's that much. Let's put a little bit more. You just want to see it sort of start to fill out these bands. So it goes from this banding here that's happening, filling it with that noise, softens up that banding, right? So that's just going to give us a little bit of more meat and potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the glow just a bit more. So we're working with 0.5. Okay, so I am liking how this is looking so far, so we're gonna go ahead and go to the most interesting part, I believe, which is the 4-color gradient. Now you just type in 4-color gradient into your effects panel and drag this on. We're gonna wanna go ahead and drag this to the front of the effects stack. From here, you're gonna wanna start with a base color, and basically the technique I like to do is essentially start with that base color and then whip pick basically that color onto the other ones. And if it's a close color, that's all right. You don't really have to do it. Basically what you want to do is you want to make a sort of meshy gradient of all sort of the same range of colors that are next to each other, but not anything too wild, because we're going to sauce it up later with the final effects. So stay tuned for that. This is not over. Essentially what you're going to want to do here is just make minor changes to the darkness and the lightness and the hue, and then take these points by selecting these buttons and basically just place them where you want your gradient orbs to be. Now, if you take down your blend to 5, each of these actual gradient orbs will be more distinct and they won't blend as much. So you'll be able to do more distinct gradient moves. Okay, now once we have our gradient to a position that we like, maybe we want to just adjust a little bit more, make the fade a little bit better with the positioning. This is really all up to you and all up to your finick and everything of like what you like to do. But I guess I'm happy with this for now. It's feeling very T-Mobile-y. Shout out T-Mobile. Now the final effect that we're going to be using here is hue and saturation. What we're going to be doing with this hue and saturation is putting it at the end, but animating the channel range and the master hue to go a full 360. That's going to give us our animated colors. Go ahead and click the stopwatch right here at the channel range beginning. Go to the end right here. Go ahead, select this and press 1. That's basically going to be a full 360. As you can see, it's already doing it. And as we go back, we start to see, oh, something's happening there. And if we just play this, like voila, you can see that this text effect is doing its thing now. It is basically what you saw in the beginning, but we have a few things that we can just spice it up with, and I'm going to throw those on now. They say never to put on motion blur onto text and everything, and you know, like vector layers and stuff like that, but sometimes I feel like it's applicable, especially when we have like a whip like that. It's definitely going to help there. So I went ahead and threw that on. I'm going to go ahead and select our text, press S. That's going to bring up our scale. When I press this stopwatch here, I'm going to drag this initial state a little bit ahead of the text clip. I'm going to select this number here, type in 0, press enter, and we are basically gone. This scale up, you can actually see a little bit of that motion blur affecting it, and I think it does a really good job of softening those edges and adding a little bit of extra motion sauce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those keyframes that I just made, and I'm going to go ahead and put the easy ease, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to our value graph. As you can see, this is not the graph that we want. We want it to be sharp at the beginning. So we're going to drag this handle up, and that's giving us a nice little burst out. I want it to settle for a little bit more, so I'm going to drag this out. And as you can see, you have to adjust this handle if you drag that out. And at the end, I'm going to set a keyframe right here and just scale it down. Let's fix this Bezier curve. And one last little adjustment, I'm going to go ahead and hit U here, pull up all of our keyframes. This swivel seems to be leaving us a little bit too soon. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that Bezier handle. and that just gives us a little bit better pacing. I'm not gonna lie, that gives us a little bit better pacing. I feel it. It's a little bit better. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but this one may have turned out better than the first one. I don't know. You let me know in the comments. But essentially, this is the full stack. We have the 4-color gradient with the basic 3D, the glow, the noise for banding, and the hue saturation to get that color change. Essentially, this is everything you needed to know to create this text effect for yourself. And just know, this doesn't just apply to text, this applies to everything. If this helped you, make sure to press like and subscribe for more tutorials like this, and leave a comment down below telling me that it actually helped you, so I know, oh, those are the videos that people are messing with. Those are the videos that people want to see. So I got a whole playlist of these tips ready to go. I got all these ideas ready to go, ready to help you guys out with your motion techniques. So make sure you press that subscribe button. Make sure you put on post notifications. And if you came from TikTok, welcome to the deep dive. We are going to be here for a while offering value to you on this YouTube channel. If you watched this far in the video, you're a GOAT. You obviously want to be better, and you will be better. Just stick in, join the community, and I will see you in the next video.